Hi guys, here are 10 more anime reviewers, or analysts. We will now continue to the voting portion of this channel. Here's the voting system. You are given 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point to vote on 3 different content creators. Otaku 1, 3 points, Otaku 2, 2 points, and Otaku 3, 1 point, just for an example. You may not dump all your points on one person. The content creator's work must not be over 5 months from March 14th, 2016, and that content must either be a review or an analysis. Please do not edit your post if you want to be counted. The next video on this channel will be normal content associated with this channel. Look at the banner. I'm glad I tried out featuring anime content creators, but to be fair, the views have nearly not been the same and quite frankly, even less than half. Not to mention it will be very hard to get the winner of the contest for a podcast. But I will try all the same. The voting will close the 30th of March or midnight of the 29th. To avoid confusion, simply vote as soon as possible. Who knows, in the future, if you really like this channel covering anime, we may come back to it. See you next time.
Is it a plane? Is it emo Kirito cutting himself more than he can slice his enemies in a game? Yes, it's 7 reasons to avoid Sword Art Online. Are you a fanboy of the show? Here's an easy recipe to enjoy this video. Ingredients, this boot. Ingredient, your ass. Apply boot to ass and get the fuck out of here. I'm not sugarcoating it anymore. You'll watch my video and for the next 5 years, you'll have to tell a therapist where on this peanut doll did Uncle Misty bad touch you. Let's go. Reason number 1, stuck in a world where you have to fight for your life? Better skip the first 20 level of gameplay so you can follow a guild you don't care about, you son of a bitch. Number 2, you'd think it'd be cool to have a virtual MMORPG where when you die in game, you die in real life. Better remove the only cool feature of the anime after watching episode 14. What the fuck, if I wanted to watch some whiny kid play a game with no risk, I'd go on Twitch.
Personally, it wasn't. I didn't watch it until my teenage years, but even though I watched it later in my life and not as a child, I completely fell in love with it and I became totally immersed. I thought it was a breathtaking experience full of laughs and sorrow, fun action and adventure, and throughout the first 2 Digimon Adventure series, I was hooked. I never tried any of the other Digimon series, but I felt complete with what I had. When I heard a new series for the Digimon Adventure series was coming out, I was rather skeptical to say the least, because I was worried this would just be a cash grab with no real progress, and Toei Animation would just latch onto the nostalgia goggles and use that as their selling point. And boy, was I wrong. This is a true sequel to the Digimon series, and it is a breath of fresh air for the series, coming back from the dead where we actually have progress to the story. It doesn't feel milk just for the sake of making a quick few bucks. We actually have new character development and a new story for the series. It's old but new and I love that. So let me take you for a journey in this review for the first Digimon Adventure Tri-movie, Reunion. Once again, my name is Brandon, so let us begin.
Uninteresting. Probably the biggest problem I have with this anime is it's so dull and uninteresting. All these characters ever do throughout the entire series is walk, talk, sit. That's it. Nothing happens. There's no weight in what they're talking about and you just don't care. The way that it started off, it made it seem like this was gonna be action anime focusing on these demons and gods. I'm like, okay, that's my mindset. We're gonna see some awesome action with demons and gods. That's what we're going for. But instead, I got this romance story that goes nowhere, nothing happens, and I'm like, why? The characters, for the most part, you really don't care about any of them. You care about like 2 characters by the end of the anime, and that's our 2 main characters. But even in that, when they were fighting, all they did was stand and talk for a few minutes, then they did the fight, and then it was ended by them standing again and talking.
The series takes its name from these people with the vestigial wings known as hibine, which literally means charcoal feather. However, that term makes no sense at all because their wings are most definitely white. For the record, you writers who are clearly colorblind, this is the color of charcoal. You know what, maybe colorblind is too generous. To screw up this royally, you'd have to be just plain old blind. Feels kinda gray to me. What do you think? I'm gonna have to go with more of a charcoal. But that's what we're talking about here. Why are they called charcoal feathers when their wings are white? Why do they get birthed out of giant pupae that spawn in rooms of this building? Why do they have wings at all?
And since it's from a kid's perspective, the loss of innocence that comes with it. But unlike most films, it focuses on the Russian invasion of Japan and its borders, instead of the US. As an upcoming history teacher, I find that pretty darn neat. The overall narrative itself doesn't do that much special. It gets from point A to point B, and after hearing "Take Care of the Boys" for me a million or so times, it becomes pretty predictable. You know it's going to end in bittersweet tragedy from the first scene, but that doesn't make it any less enjoyable. The boys, Junpei and Kanta, make this especially true. Unlike in many other war films, they feel like kids with actual character and distinct personalities, rather than just plot devices that force you to cry. Everyone else is nice too. For the most part, the Russians aren't all seen as stereotypical bad guys, and the Japanese aren't seen as complete saints either. I'm looking at you, Hideo, you walking, talking asshole.
So as the Evangelion faithful already know, episode 25 and 26 act as a kind of layout for what would become the end of Evangelion, alluding to many of the same scenes. Misato's dead, Ritsuko's dead, Asuka's in the leg bed, Shinji's watching babes bang, Shinji's still stressed out about killing Space Boyfriend, Instrumentality has joined all the characters together, and you get the picture, okay? What confuses a lot of fans, however, is the seemingly different ways of approaching the ending. In my Shinji analysis, I didn't want to declare whether or not Shinji escaped the fantasy world of Instrumentality to be in the real world or not, in favor of leaving the possibility of both open. It seemed really vague at the time, and now I feel like I've come to a kind of conclusion.
Decent people, who've asked for directions one day only to be jumping off a building to be one with the sky goddess Halawadi 5 days later. It's insane how many of my friends have done this. Maybe that's why I don't have any. No time to think about that. Why was I here again? Oh yeah, cults. You know the ones. Scientology, Jim Webb's thing, the Manson family, Mormonism. But whenever I see the topic of cults come up in anime, it's always in the most played out way. For instance, with my very limited knowledge of the medium of anime, I've only seen 2 shows even try to tackle the topic, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and Golden Time. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX had troublesome cult portrayal. I don't remember the specifics, I watched it like 5 years ago, but there was this borderline anorexic guy preaching a message of embracing the light or something. My big problem with this cult representation is that the show makes it so obvious that, oh geez, this is a cult, better not join them willingly. Which is exactly what happens. No one wants to join Cult Light, so leader guy has to beat people in duels to convince them, or something. It was weird. I was 10. The thing is though, this is in no way actually representative of how actual cults work.
A1 Pictures has been odd. A mix between projection, assumptions, and dodgy secondhand research has led to a strange image of the studio being some sort of evil mastermind doing the Demon Lord's, Aniplex, and Sony's bidding. It's a cool picture, but the problem is that if you go into research with the goal of finding an argument, you'll find it. But that comes with ignoring other information that would derail it, or in this case, provide a pattern much larger than a single culprit. In case you aren't aware, which is obviously understandable due to a closet industry, A1 Pictures works are almost entirely composed of freelancers, and the studio itself acts as a phone book for a huge amount of talent within the industry. But the details of this are more important than that fact, because the way freelancers are brought onto projects is based on working relationships between various members of staff and a constantly changing production committee looking for a particular outcome. It's certainly not ideal, and it's a product of a modern industry that just can't afford to give everyone jobs.
Thus, Alex robs Marty of his humanity. He can't see the real Marty. To Alex, he's a piece of meat, and could easily be substituted with any other animal. Anyone would do. Shinji needs a mother so desperately that he's blind to anything else. He can't see the real Asuka no matter how hard he tries. But Asuka needs to be seen just as desperately. Part 2. Shinji struggles with boundaries. You know how human babies don't learn how to smile socially, that is, smiling at someone as a gesture of warmth as opposed to reflex smiles, until they are 3 months old? Someone I know shared this story with me. Her baby, who for some time didn't show much reaction to people, had started smiling at strangers, then at her father, but she would not smile at her own mother, even though they spent so much time together. It turned out that the reason why the baby didn't smile at her mother was not because she hated or ignored her. It was because she hasn't yet learned that her mother was a separate person.
laughing at Boo, Majin Boo, you know, Fat Boo, and they were laughing at him because of, you know, the way he looked. He looked like a giant-ass man-child. And then when you see how his power was, you're like, holy shit, he's strong. And I feel like there might be something very similar going on with that. We're, you know, kind of at that point in the series where we're looking at Monica and asking, is he really that strong? Is he someone, you know, that could really beat Goku and Vegeta? Is he someone that really Beerus to go out of his way to say he needs to fight, like he's definitely needs to be a part of the team? And, I mean, I just don't think Beerus would choose someone if they were weak. I just don't. I don't believe that. If there is something going on here, there has to be a really logical explanation for it. There might be some form of reason to maybe that he has a split personality, like Dr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde. For instance, you know, you have it to where Monica is kind of similar to that. He has a split personality. Maybe he's passive and nice at one point to where he's like a coward, which is kind of what we're seeing here because he's supposedly passed out to a Kameo Wave. And then maybe when he starts taking a lot of abuse and getting a lot of damage, he might flip that fucking switch and he goes all berserker and starts beating the shit out of everybody.